Folks, welcome back to Nostalgianomics. Today, I'm going to do my best to shed a positive light on Pokemon investing in singles and the Pokemon market in general. I'm not disregarding or ignoring any of the cards that are dropping or any of the negative sides of the hobby, but I feel like everyone else out there lately has the negativity covered. We're going to stick to positive sides of the hobby here on this channel. And so when it comes to alt art and other top tier modern hits, there's a lot of concern about the population reports being too high on those cards. And once they fall out of favor and out of popularity, then it's going to be very hard for those to save their value, if not grow in value over time. And so what I did, leaving alt arts out of it, leaving tag teams out of it, leaving waifus out of it, I took cards from XY, Sun and Moon, that were, some of their top tier hits of their time, that all have populations in the thousands, if not tens of thousands, to show how cards can perform over time in top rarities. And these cards are nowhere near as hard to pull, as hard to find, or as good, really, as alt arts are. So that can give you an idea of how these can perform over time. So let's jump right into it. Before we do that, got to give a shout out to today's video sponsor, which is none other than lowpopping.market. The link will be in the description. Guys, Low Poppin', they will buy, sell, or trade with you, whichever way you want to go about growing your collection. They've got the top tier of top tier, right? They got the black labels. They got the pristine 10s. All right, all these gold sections, that's going to be for the big baller shot color whales. Then they do have the silver section where you can still find some very high-end sought-after cards there, but they are going to be a little more affordable for most people's budgets. And then for the more budget-friendly cards, they do have the bronze section where you can usually find something you can afford in this section. Guys, Low Poppin' does it all. Modern, vintage, sealed, singles, it doesn't matter. They got you covered. So make sure to give Low Poppin' a chance and check them out. Again, the link will be in the description and the comment section below. Jumping into our first card. The full art Mega Charizard from Evolutions. Now, Evolutions was one of the most heavily printed sets in all modern times. It was reprinted umpteenth times. You can see from the population reports, these aren't even up to date. I have it right here. You can see from population reports of Mega Charizard, it has 17,000 graded, almost 9,000 tens. Okay, so as much or more than most every alt art out there. Can we agree? Now, let's take a look at Charizard. Here's the big boom during the peak of the pandemic, right? Here's the correction. If you can see, when it corrected, this card came all the way down in the 1-teens. All right, it was in the 1-teens. All right. Today, this card sells for $140. So 1-teens to 140, we're looking at roughly a 20%-ish gain in the past year or so. I mean, you can see these lows we're all seeing in 2020, early 2023. And so not even a year's time, we've already seen things starting to rise with this card. Now, it's not the only card from Evolutions. All right, we also have the full art Mewtwo. You can see these major spikes. Mewtwo's seen an incredible rise lately. You can see, right, back here is when Evolutions got released. It had the fall. It rose during the boom. We saw the cool off after the boom. Like I always talk about, it set a higher low. So it didn't return to its lows before the boom. It set a higher low, right? But you still could have picked this card up in the 50s. I mean, you can see it was very clearly in the 50s in the late 2000s, early 2023. Now, we've seen some crazy spike up into the hundreds, but it has settled back down. And now it's selling very clearly. Here's an auction at $71, $59.82, 75, 61 at auction, 68. So it's very clearly in the high 60s, 70s, even 80s sometimes. And if we look at what it was going for again in the 50s, you can see it's risen, 20 plus percent, 15% if you take some of the lower auctions. So it's very clearly on the way up. And again, Mewtwo, very high population. Over 2,000 PSA 10s, 6,500 total graded. And so there's tons of these out there. Evolutions was a really high printed set. It's still starting to see rises in value as these sets continue to age, as people want to go back and collect these sets. Now, next up, we got the Mewtwo from Shining Legends. Now, this is the cool one. Here's the pandemic highs of 700s, right? Shining Legends saw the drop like everything else did after the pandemic. It actually rose up and surpassed the pandemic high with some recent sales lately. Now it has cooled off a bit lately, back into the 600s. You can see 610, 650 or best offer. We have a 600 at auction, 675 or best offer, 650, 660. So very clearly in the 600s. Now you can see here, look, cooled off, right? 650. It's about where it's at. So even at 650, it's very clearly next to the pandemic level highs, you could have picked this card up in 2021, 2022, 2023, literally in the 300s. You could have made 100% gain on your money. And look, Mewtwo is not a low pop card. 1,900, almost 2,000 PSA 10 along the lines of a lot of the alt arts these days. 6,900 graded. So this goes to show, just because it has a huge population and it saw pandemic jumps and then fell off, it doesn't mean cards cannot recover over time and still be good plays. All right. Next up is going to be the full art Secret Alakazam for Fates Collide. Now look, I get it. The PSA 10 is still pretty low pop in the 300s, but the PSA 9 is not. So we're going to look at both. Okay. The PSA 10, it's far surpassed its pandemic level highs. Pandemic level highs was 400s. Now it's selling in the 600s. You can see that right here. 900 were best offer. Catch 'em All Collectibles had one down here. It's 600, 650 right there, 699. So this card is very clearly a $600 plus card. Pandemic level highs were 400s. Now the PSA 9s. All right, I bought some of these, so I can clearly tell you these were in the 60s the past couple of years, all the way down to the 60s in a PSA 9. They were in the high hundreds, maybe almost 200 in the pandemic. Now, we've seen rises lately, right? There's been some rises. Now it's correcting a little bit. It shows 107, but really it's in the 120s. I can confirm that because I just sold one. I just sold one back in October 30th for $125. So, this sold, paid for, everything's fine, good review. And so $125, you could have doubled your money on the 9s in literally a year's time, even though the population of the 9s is over 1,000 pop. Doesn't matter. Good cards will do well over time because the demand and popularity will be there. Now, the last one, this is just for fun. Look, I'm not saying you're getting rich off this card, all right? But it just kind of goes to show the point. Stained glass birds, right? All the hype 2021, everything died down, right? Found its bottom. Look at this, though. Could have picked this card up in the 40s. In the 40s for years. In the 40s for years. Okay? Now we've been seeing a rise. Recent sales in the $60. I've even had some sell recently even more than that. Look at this. This is the greatest part. 13,000 PSA 10s. 13,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. That surpasses any alt art. So when you're seeing all these alt arts, correct and have their 20, 30%, sometimes 40, 50% on some of them decreases, just remember, when they catch themselves and they bottom out, like you see on a lot of these charts, right? They bottom out. You can go see on these charts, right? They come down and bottom out. We can look at the Mewtwo chart. It comes down and bottoms out. Just remember, when these bottom out, they can still rise in value. So we're seeing $60 sales. You could have got in the 40s back here, all in the 40s. Those are 20% gains. $50 to $60 is a 20% gain. Look, no one's getting rich. I'm not saying that, but it just goes to prove the point that even with pop reports in the tens of thousands, right? Even with tons available, even though this card isn't every single ETB you could pull, things can still hold value and even rise in value over time. Not saying you're going to get rich, not saying it's the best investment you can make. There's a ton of more investments you can make better than this card or some of these cards. The point is, pop reports are not the end all be all when it comes to Pokemon investing and these singles growing in value over time. So don't get too focused in on the alt arts having 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 pop reports. The reason is because there's that many people into this hobby now. There's that many people that want them. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the alt arts actually hold their value very well, even in this downturn in the market. So that's really the main purpose of this video, to show you that, yes, we are going to see higher populations now in modern than we saw in vintage. But as long as popularity and demand stays there with these cards, which we've seen, Evolutions cards, guys, these cards are 7 years old now. These are old cards. These are populations almost 9,000, and we're still seeing the Charizard begin to rise in price again. So that should tell you, and this card's enormously easy to pull. You can pull one out of every almost couple boxes almost, easily won a case. Nowhere near as hard to pull as the alt arts. And so just keep all this data in mind when you're seeing the negativity and the price drops in the alt arts. Just remember, things don't go up forever, and things also do not go down forever. And if these alt arts and these Pokemon do have resurgences in the future, these can be possibilities of what those charts could look like and what those rises could look like. Like we saw on the Shining Mewtwo GX, like we saw on the Fates Collide Alakazam and other cards. And so that's pretty much what I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section what you think about all this. And as always, I'll be back in a new video soon. Check out Lil Poppin', subscribe to the channel. I am out.